Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, part 2 of the FreePBX 14 setup video. I'm showing you how I have set it up here. We're using an HP thin client, T610 I believe it is, as our basis for our VoIP system. And today we'll start with, we're going to go over configuring the firewall first, and then we'll get into creating extensions and trunks and so forth. So let's get started with that video right now. Alright, so as you can see here on the screen, we have the FreePBX system up. How long has it been up and running? It has been up and running 2 days and 57 minutes and 52 seconds. That's when we actually put this unit into production. And again, I only paid about 35 bucks for this unit on eBay. I had one that I had here. I went ahead and bought 2 more because I have some customers who this might be a potential for installing, but we're going to test it here. The other thing I did was to get one of the cordless Grandstream deck phones here, the DP-720, and I got the DP-750 wireless base station. We installed those the other day. They're working fine. I specifically got that for my mother to use around the house instead of having to have her have a cell phone. She never leaves the home, and when she does, she's always with us in our cell phones. So now let's get into configuring the firewall on here. Now you can use the firewall built into FreePBX or not. You can disable it, but for the sake of this video, I want to show you how I've got it configured, and that way if you want to use it, you can. You just go over here to connectivity and go to firewall. So you can actually run the wizard. The firewall wizard is probably the easiest way to do it, but you can see I've got mine enabled. If I go over to the responsive firewall tab, you'll see it's enabled. The interfaces, I have my Ethernet 0, ETH0, set up on the internet as the internet interface, and then under networks, all I did here was add I added 2 entries. One for my machine that I typically connect up with, and then the other is the entire subnet. So the way to do the entire subnet is you enter it as a, for example, my subnet is a 5 subnet, and then you just enter a 0 and a /24 for the CIDR notation, so that it knows to include the whole network on the 5 subnet. And then I've trusted that excluded that from the firewall. And then you can check your status right here, if it ever comes up. Now granted, this device I'm using is a little bit slower, but it does have a lot of RAM. The slow point in this T610 client is that SSD drive. And then you can come in here if there are any hosts being blocked, etc. So if you don't have the firewall enabled, you can go through, like I said, and you can rerun this wizard and it'll step you through it. But if you want to have the firewall enabled, that's basically all you need to do, is just make sure that you got your internet interface on the internet portion of ETH0, and make sure you have your network hosts set up to be excluded from the firewall so you don't lock yourself out. Alrighty, so the next thing we're going to do is get our extensions set up, and then after we're done with our extensions, we'll set up our VoIP trunk. So coming in here under applications and go to extensions. Now I'm going to start with extension number 200, so we'll click on add extension, and this is going to be a CHAN SIP extension. We use that because we changed our CHAN SIP port to 5060. And you can see that change right here on the screen. So the user extension is going to be 200, and we'll just make this my desk phone, so we'll just call it Joe Desk. It'll create a password for you automatically. This is the only thing I change on this area. So come over here to voicemail now, and we want to enable our voicemail, and we'll just enter a password of 1234 for now on the voicemail password. Now what you can do is set this password to the same as the extension number, and that'll force the user to set up their mailbox on first access. That is a neat little feature they've added to FreePBX. Also, if you want to be secure, you can require a voicemail only be retrieved from the same extension. And if you do that, they won't be asked to enter their password. I just leave that set at no. Then enter the email address here. So we'll go ahead and enter my email address. And then we want to email the attachment. Now you have a choice. You can play the caller ID, you can play the envelope. If you hover over these question marks, it'll tell you what each one of these means. Now the other thing you can do is delete voicemail. What that means is you need to use this with caution. It means that once a voicemail comes in and is sent out to an email, it will delete it off the system. I leave this set to no and have my users manually delete their voicemails. That way, if something is wrong with the mail system, you will have a way to go back in and get those voicemails. Otherwise, it's going to delete them as soon as it thinks it's emailed them properly. And that's pretty much it for the voicemail tab. The Find Me, Follow Me is going to be an advanced feature, so we're not going to go over that right now. So once I've got my extension in there, I come back to the general and just click on Submit. And that's pretty much all there is to adding an extension. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the other extensions off screen, and then when I'm all done, then I'll click on the Apply Config button because I want to show you something else. So if we come back here, I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen in the terminal. And if we type in that, if we turn on that Asterisk Monitoring, which is asterisk -r triple verbose, RVVB, and we leave that up, I'm going to show you what happens when I hit the Apply button. So if I hit the Apply Config here and then minimize it, you'll see that asterisk is restarting and the command gets applied. So that's one of the benefits of leaving this verbose command up here, or verbose screen. You'll see that all the commands that are happening with asterisk in the background, and that's going to come into play later when we actually put our extensions and connect them up. So it's a neat little feature to have. I just like to keep that running in the background. Alright, so we've got all of our extensions in here now, so I'm going to show you what happens. We'll bring up the, I'm going to hit the Apply Config button, and then we'll bring up the little SSH connection here, and you can see it when it reloads asterisk in the background. Now keep in mind this machine's a little bit slow, but you can see, so all the commands ran at one time. I can scroll back up and you can see where it registers the extensions and reconfigures SQL, etc., etc. So again, handy little thing to have up and running while you're adding and removing extensions. Alright, so I'm on my voice over IP provider's wiki page, and that's voip.ms. If you want a good VoIP provider, I've been using these folks for almost 10 years. Well, no, about 5 years now. They've been excellent. They have excellent tech support. They take special steps to make sure that you're who you say you are when you register with them, and they're just a good company, SIP provider to deal with. And best of all, they have the configuration information in here. So let's just create a SIP account to register a trunk account. I've already got one registered in here, as you can see, under go to connectivity and down to trunks. So I'm going to add another trunk, and we'll just call this Chan SIP trunk. And we'll call this VoIP, and then we'll just do test. Okay. So in this string, you can enter your caller ID. I always go ahead and enter that there. Now there are some special circumstances where you might not want that there, depending on if you have multiple DID numbers and want a specific DID number to appear when you dial out. Now the maximum channels I get with VoIP-MS are 2, but I don't put that in here. I just leave this field blank. There's no reason for me to put anything in there. Now under the dial number manipulation rules, Let's see if we can use the dial patterns wizard. I want to do a 7 and 10 digit dial pattern, so I'm going to have it generate some routes here. And you can see it's entered these two routes in here for me now, one for the 7 digit and one for the 10. So what I like to do for the 7 digit is I like to prepend. VoIP MS requires a 1 to be sent if you're dialing outside of your area code that your DID is registered. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a 1 and a 210 as my default area code. So anytime, what this is telling VoIP MS is anytime I dial a 7-digit number, go ahead and prepend the 1 and the 210 in front of it. And then for the long distance call for the 10-digit number, I just enter a 1 here. So it can dial a 1 and then the 10-digit number. And I'm going to go ahead and submit that. Now I got an error here, and that's normal because I don't have the trunk name in here. So I'm going to call this VoIP.ms .houston. All right. Now this information here I'm going to get rid of, and I'm going to replace it by this information right here. So I'll just grab this, everything below the bracketed VoIP MS, do a copy, and then paste that in here. Now what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to modify the following. You're going to need to modify the host to whatever VoIP host you're going to. In my case, it's Houston.voip.ms, so I can just modify this here. And then you'll need to put in your secret, which is your password. And then down here under username, you'll need to put in the username that you were supplied by VoIP.ms. It's a 6-digit SIP account user ID. And then just leave the others set as they are, and you should be good. Now, the one other thing you need to do is come to the incoming tag. You want to get rid of whatever is in here. Now, this is specifically for VoIP MS. Your other VoIP providers will tell you what to put in there if they require anything. And for the register string, if we just come back to VoIP MS, the register string is going to be this right here. So we'll copy that and paste it. And what you'll do is you'll replace this number here with your SIP user ID number, your password, and then you'll put your at what SIP provider you're using. So again, I'm using Houston VoIP.ms and port number 5060. So now once you do this, submit on it and then apply. Now I already have VoIP MS set up in there, so I'll show you what that looks like and where to look for the registration information. So if you come up here to reports and go to Asterisk Info, and if you go to your registries, I believe it is, you'll see that I'm registered. This one says no authentication because that was a dummy account, but this one does show I'm registered to Houston.voip.ms. So it's relatively trivial to get a trunk line set up. Once you've set that up, then we can move on to the next item. Alright, so we're now back at the dashboard for FreePBX. The next thing we want to do is set up our outbound routes so we can make outbound phone calls. So if you come up here to connectivity, you can go to outbound routes. Now I've already created mine, so I'll show you the one I created. I just call it local and long distance. Let's go here to the edit button. So I just called it local long distance. That was the only thing I changed on here other than trunk sequence. You have to enter VoIP.ms. I could also enter my VoIP test if I wanted to as an outbound route, but this is my actual active route, so that's what I've set it to. Now, one thing that's real important is dial patterns. If you don't enter these correctly, you're not going to get any outgoing phone calls. But you can simply use the dial patterns wizard, and what I've done is I've selected local 7-10 digit patterns. I selected US toll-free, US long distance and US emergency. Actually, I didn't select US emergency, but Be that as may, I selected 7, 10, and long distance, and US toll free. And once you click on generate routes, this is what you're going to get for the outbound routes. That way you can dial any of these 800 numbers, any 10-digit number, and any 7-digit number. Import and export we don't use, and additional settings I'm not using on here right now. So that's basically how you do an outbound route, in its very simplest form. Once you get this set up, then you should be able to test and make an outbound call, and it should work just fine. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is do some inbound routes so that we can receive calls. So I have a little different setup than a lot of people do, but it'll give you a general idea of how to set it up. So you go up here to connectivity and then go to inbound routes. So I've created 3 inbound routes here, and to make things simple, I've also created a ring group. Now, the way I did the ring group is I came over here to applications and go to ring groups. And what I've done is I've created 2 ring groups, one for sales, one for support. So we'll go look at the ring group 601. You just give it a number when you create it, and I've included these 2 extensions, 201 and 202. And what's real important is down here you have to set a destination if there's no answer on this ring group, and I've set that up to the help desk. So what happens is, if you come up here to inbound routes, and we'll look at my primary telephone number. So what this is saying, if a DID comes in on this line, 210-881-0909, that's my main phone number. That's for the Managed Computer Solutions. It goes to ring group 601, which is support. So if we click on this, we'll see I've specifically told it, and you can hover over these question marks and they'll give you an idea of what you're looking for. So I've just told it, match this DID number, any caller ID number, go to a ring group, and the ring group is 601 support. And that's in its simplest form, that's how you do an inbound route. Now what you could do is you could leave this DID number blank, and that way any direct inward dialing number, but this kind of locks it to your system. Now I've also done some advanced inbound routes. So if we come back to inbound routes, for my toll-free number, you'll see here I wanted to only ring a specific extension. So again, I just come up here and edit it. I told it look for this DID number for people dialing that 887 number, and redirect it to extension number 201. Very simple. Now my more complicated inbound route is this one for my mother, for her private number. So if I click on this, you'll see I've told it to match this DID number, which is blurred out. I've told it to accept any caller ID number, and I want it to go to mom's extension at 209. But one of the other things I did, and I don't know whether, yes, it's on privacy, because I don't want mom to be having to deal with any calls that don't send their caller ID, because we've taught her don't answer the phone if you don't recognize the ID number, the caller ID number. But one way to enforce that is to use Privacy Manager. And if you look there, it says if no caller ID has been received, Privacy Manager will ask the caller to enter their phone number. If a user extension is call screening enabled, yada yada, the incoming caller will be prompted to say their name when the call reaches the user extension. So if someone were to call with no caller ID, they would be prompted, and that usually kills any telemarketers that are trying to come through, because it's an automated system and it's not going to announce its name or whatnot. So that's one way to add a little bit of privacy onto a DID number. Now again, you have to purchase a DID number. They charge you a monthly fee for it. I think it's $4 a month for each DID number, but it does come with some free 300 minutes, I believe, which mom will never use that many minutes up. But that's how you set up a private internal number to ring to a specific extension based on its DID, and how to set some privacy up on it. Now the other thing I've done is I've installed Flash Operator Panel 2, and we'll be covering that in an advanced features video for FreePBX. I'll show you how to do that. I'll also show you how to set up your endpoints or your phones, but I've covered that in another video. That's why I didn't want to go in too deep on this video. But we'll go into FOP2. Now I've set that up with extension 200 is my manager account, and I just have my default PIN in there, which is 1234, and I click on accept. And then what this does is Flash Operator Panel 2 gives you a glance. You can look at a glance and see what phones are online, whether your trunks are up and running, the ring groups, etc. And if I were to now attempt to make a call, you'll see that it shows my phone call going out over the VoIP trunk line off of my help desk extension, and then when I'm done, I just hang it up and the line goes inactive. So this is one thing that is pretty much indispensable for most of my clients and customers. They need a way to be able to look at their phone system. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of Flash Operator Panel 2, but it gives you a lot more options. Now, FreePBX 14, you can buy something called iSymphony. I've never been a big fan of iSymphony. I always use FOP, Flash Operator Panel 2. It's free for up to 15 extensions on the light version, but it's very reasonably priced. I think it's $80 for the first 50. I don't know. You'll have to look it up. Just do a search on Flash Operator Panel 2, and they'll tell you what their pricing is. But it allows you to do blind transfers, supervised transfers. You can record calls. You can monitor, snoop in on calls, listen and whisper. So if you're in a facility where you have to train users on the phone system or monitor their calls for quality assurance, and this is an indispensable product, you're going to need this because FreePBX does not support this out of the box. But it's a one-line command to install this, and it works, and it doesn't foobar your FreePBX system. Alright, so that's where we're going to end today's video. I know, I didn't cover endpoints, setting up your phones to register to the phone system. I didn't show you how to install Flash Operator Panel 2, but we'll do another video on that, an advanced video, and I'll also show you the IVR on FreePBX, so you can do, you can do the little automated phone tree thingy that everybody's so fond of. So, these videos are not they're received well, but I don't get a lot of views on them because not a lot of people are interested in phone systems. But I promised everybody months ago that I was going to do a video on FreePBX 14. I started it, realized it was still buggy, and decided to wait. And now that I've waited, I'm glad I did, because it seems they've gotten those initial bugs worked out of FreePBX 14. Still running Asterisk 13 under the hood, but as you can see, I've had absolutely no trouble getting it set up and running. And this was more of a proof of concept video, so for those of you that like the FreePBX series, these videos are for you. The others that don't like it, don't watch them. I'll have some other good videos coming up here shortly. So anyway, we hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. Please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Click the notification bell. Give us a like down below. Leave your comments in the comments section. Donate if you're so inclined. We take PayPal and Patreon. And please don't forget that we will see you on the other side.